to the Guitar Arrangers Podcast, the greatest guitar arrangers podcast in the history of the universe.
That was very nice. Welcome, everybody. We have a special episode today. This is our first official interview episode. Today we are joined with our dear friend, Ryan Roubison, who is here today to talk to us about his new album, Songs from the Willow Glen, which is a collection of Irish folk melodies, folk songs that he has arranged for solo classical guitar. Hello, Ryan.
Hello. Happy to be back with you guys. Very, very nice. Glad we kept the deer joke running. It's important.
Yeah. You didn't say, I was going to say, you didn't say enough deers. You know, this guy, he's very dear to us. You really kind of underplayed the amount of deers, I think, Tony.
I was keeping it casual. You're right.
All right. Ryan, do you want to tell us anything about yourself, or should we jump in and should we describe Ryan to the people? It's the most beautiful man you'll ever meet.
Let's just jump into it, man. I think you've got some good ideas going.
All right, cool. Where were you born?
So I was born here. I grew up on the west side of the Phoenix Valley out there. I guess actually technically Peoria, but yep, I'm a Arizona native. I have lived here for my entire life, all over across the valley in different spots. But yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. When did you start playing guitar? That's what I want to know.
I got a guitar for Christmas. I think I was in 5th grade, so you're 11, something like that, 10 or 11. And I had a friend. I went over to a friend's house, and he had a guitar that just sat in the corner, and he never played it. And I would always go over there and just sit around and mess around on it. And then I asked for a guitar for Christmas, and I got the classic Costco Yamaha CG whatever, $60 guitar. And yeah, I still have it. Actually, it's over there.
So that's like acoustic guitar?
Yeah, it was a nylon string. That was my first guitar. Was the old Yamaha nylon. Yeah.
Yeah, and how did you really start getting from just kind of like jamming at your friend's house, and trying your friend's guitars to now like you're a full-on professional guitarist? I mean, and you with like 2 degrees in guitar at least. So I mean, how do you how does one get from picking up that Yamaha to full on getting scholarships to go to college for guitar?
I was extremely lucky. My next door neighbor was he was an elderly Canadian man, very nice. And he was a classical guitar guy. He had and I just knew him because we lived next to each other. And wow. I told him that I got a guitar, and he had me over, and then I started doing the weekly lessons kind of thing. And
wow,
yeah, so I was really lucky. Like that was in 5th grade, and he started me off with like the soar etudes, like looking back on it, he helped me out, and with like reading music and stuff like that. I lucked out with being able to read music early on, and then like high school came around, and I kind of stopped playing the whole like classical guitar for a while and got into death metal and got an electric guitar and all that good stuff. And then towards the end of high school, I got back into it somehow. So I figured that I wanted to do something after high school, and it was kind of one of those things where I just decided that I wanted to go the music academia route, even though I didn't really know much about it or wasn't really involved in that world at that point. So yeah, that's kind of how it went. I got lucky with a dose of classical guitar early on, and then I like came full circle there towards the end when I was a teenager and got back into it. Like the whole metal overlap with classical kind of thing. We can talk about that for hours. But yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I feel like most metal guys that I've met going to school started out with electric guitar, or really most classical guitarists that I've met, in the United States, like start out with electric guitar, maybe metal or rock or something.
They call that the Odette switch.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do have another question. So this person that taught you classical guitar when you were about like 10 or 11, like, was this like a person that you paid for lessons, or is it just like your neighbor?
It started off as just like a couple lessons, and then it turned into weekly grind. And thankfully my mom was footing the bill at that time. Well, I'm glad that she did. And she kind of forced me to stick with it too. You know how, we all have some experience with teaching younger kids. I wasn't super enthusiastic about it until you get to that point where you start feeling like you can pick up the guitar and just like play something satisfying.
Right. It's interesting that there's that kind of because sometimes if there's no money invested in the lessons, sometimes it's like, you don't care about them as much. So it's interesting to hear that, like, even though he was your neighbor, there was still like, some stakes,
Yeah. Early on,
Yeah. And when did you start playing music with the Irish Cultural Center in all this, in this guitar timeline?
So I got into Irish stuff. I got into the whole Celtic music world around the same time, like around a high school age, early teenage years. I came through it again, kind of a roundabout way through like metal and punk rock. Like I got into Dropkick Murphys and Flogging Molly, those, Dropkick Murphys, the kind of old school East Coast Irish American punk band. And I was completely sold on the bagpipes and the penny whistles and the banjos and the accordions and all that good stuff. And eventually I came to the conclusion, like, what if it was this music minus the electric guitars and the fast drums and the vocals and everything, So it, again, kind of similar with how I came back to classical music. I came through it with punk rock and heavy metal. So
when did you start playing penny whistle? Because I know there's a video on your YouTube channel of you playing penny whistle with Elvady, which is a very famous folk metal band, if that's the appropriate subgenre to call them.
Yeah. I'm good job on the pronunciation, man. that's the old,
I learned from the best.
Eluvati, yeah. But I
always said alluviate.
Alluviate. Great. That video is very old. I was like a freshman in high school there. So I think I was 14 or 15 years old. You can still see the X's on my hands because I was under 21. And they, at the venues, they mark you so you can't buy alcohol. But that would have been like 2010, I think. So like 12 years ago. But yeah, I got into penny whistle, same kind of thing. Really, it was Flogging Molly, and Elvady too. I remember Elvady is a classic band because they have the death metal aesthetic, very like Gothenburg, kind of similar to like your Swedish death metal style. But then the vocalist like pulls a penny whistle out of his pocket and just starts shredding on it in between vocals, or in between verses, I mean. And I remember just, being in 7th or 8th grade, or actually probably even earlier than that, maybe like 6th grade, and just being absolutely sold. Just like, okay, I'm pretty sure that's the coolest thing I've ever seen in the universe. So, and then penny whistle is actually a cheap and easy instrument to get into. Like a $10 penny whistle sounds good, as opposed to like a $40 guitar made not. You know what I'm saying? I just kind of went from there. did the YouTube lessons kind of thing, and took a long time because I never took lessons on any of the Irish instruments, so it took a little longer to develop. But yeah, and then I slowly started getting more and more involved, playing with sessions, going to pubs, trying to get more involved with the Irish music scene, and eventually got in touch with the people at the Irish Cultural Center in Phoenix, Arizona, and somehow ended up teaching there. So teaching penny whistle and a little bit of bouzouki and guitar, mandolin. So
yeah, didn't you win one of their competitions too, or something, to go to Ireland?
Yes. Yeah. So that was. So this is in recent times, actually. But yeah. So what it is it's one of the organizations that is basically housed by the Irish Cultural Center, but the organization that's sending me to Ireland is the Friends of St. Patrick's Center, and they have an Arizona chapter. They have chapters all over the U.S. and I think in different countries as well. But yeah, it was kind of a series of interviews and things like that, and the program itself isn't actually rooted in music. That's just kind of my, I guess, spin on it. Yeah, so I'm the young ambassador of Arizona to the country of Ireland. I was supposed to go back in 2020, but the trip's been delayed by 2 years just because of COVID. But yeah, I'm going in June. So in a matter of weeks.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Have you ever been?
Nope, I have never been. I've never been over the ocean. So I'm super excited getting stuff locked in. I just got like confirmation on the dates that I'll be there. I'm going to be there for almost the whole month of June. So very exciting.
And just so people understand, like, how much of an Irish super fan you are, like an Irish culture super fan you are, in Ryan's house, there's like all these famous places from Ireland that he has photographed, like hung around the walls. And I bet you have plans to go see some of those places while you're in Ireland.
Oh yeah, Ben. Yeah, I've got a long list. Yeah, absolutely.
Just about a couple. Tell us a couple.
Yeah. I mean, the main one that I'm really excited about is I'm looking at it right now. Is I have a framed painting of the O'Donoghue's pub, which is just on kind of on the outskirts of Dublin. But that pub is kind of served as like the epicenter of the sort of Irish folk music revival back in the late 1960s and early 1970s, where the Irish band the Dubliners actually formed there. And they went on to become like arguably the most famous musical group from Ireland of all time. But they formed there, and then so did a separate band, Planxty, also formed there, which is also arguably maybe one of the most famous bands from Ireland. So they formed, they all knew each other, but they formed independently of each other just from jamming at sessions and things like that. The Dubliners being more of like the old-timey folk tunes kind of thing, and Planxty was more in the I guess modern at the time, but with playing with bouzouki and citerns and experimenting with new instruments and things like that. But yeah, so anyway, that's the story with O'Donoghue's. I'm really looking forward to going there. There's a statue of Luke Kelly nearby, who's the frontman of the Dubliners. There's a big bronze statue of him with his banjo and his mouth open singing and stuff. So I'm definitely going to grab a selfie with that.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. And there's a couple more, but yeah.
You'll have to bring back some Guinness from the Guinness factory. Is that a thing?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So St. James Gate there. You can go. You can do the tour. And you gotta. I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna do the distillery tours too, and with Tullamore Dew and probably Jameson as well. That's standard. American goes to Ireland experience.
I hear that they like show you how to pour the perfect Guinness. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean the secret is on the glass, right?
He already knows.
You tilt the glass at a 45-degree angle, and then you pour on the harp, the little harp symbol, which is the Guinness symbol that's like If it's an actual Guinness glass, pint glass, it'll be etched into the glass. So 45-degree angle, and then you aim the Guinness at the harp, and you're good to go. But maybe I don't know. I haven't. I could be wrong. Maybe if I go to Ireland and they might be like, well, actually, it's more of a 54-degree angle or something like that.
My gosh, this is crazy. If we keep talking about Irish culture facts, we're gonna be here. We have to do, Tony. We're gonna do a 12-part series. But I want to talk about. I want to do a hard segue and turn this conversation towards the meat of why we're here today, is because you arranged like a ton of music for a whole new album. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the album is called Songs from the Willow Glen, and it was basically a product that came of being in my last year of my master's degree at ASU, and that also being around kind of the height of COVID and remote learning and all of that good stuff. So, at that time, recitals were absolutely a no-go. And so I decided that instead of doing the whole Zoom recital from the bedroom, which, to be fair, I did actually end up doing a few of those, but I wanted to record an album instead. I wanted to teach myself how to do the home recording kind of thing, and playing Irish music on the guitar has always been something that I've been interested in. And so that was kind of the inception of it. Was I instead of doing my degree recital, I wanted to record and release an album, and it even went so far as to Gigi and I, my teacher at ASU, our teacher at ASU. So we had to go to the dean and make sure like that I could get credit for get the recital credit, and she signed off on it. So it was official, and from that point on, that was I did all of the arrangements I had done kind of sparsely over the course of a couple of years, but all of the recording and all of that good stuff, and the photography and the design and all of that, all the visual stuff, was all done in one semester. So it was a busy semester, absolutely.
Yeah, and now you have not only the album, but you're also selling all the sheet music too, which I think is really cool. So you could see the sheet music for every single track on the album, and there's some stuff in there that could be like in the back of the Christopher Parkening book, or could be in the Frederick Node method. There's some really good, like, accessible stuff, as well as some really challenging stuff in this album. A little bit of everything.
Yeah. That's definitely true. There are some tunes that are just very straightforward, nice and simple, and relaxing to play, and then there are tunes that are much more difficult and challenging to get technically, and with the speed and the general just kind of rhythmic feel that becomes so important in Irish music, especially in session music.
And you sent me some stuff today or yesterday. You sent me some sheet music, and I played through some of it, and like the Blind Mary one, that one's not too shabby. But then some of the other ones, like there's one that's in 9/8.
Yeah. So there's two that's in the two 9/8 ones are Phis Fliuch. I'm probably mispronouncing that. That's Irish. And Kid on the Mountain. Those are two of my favorites, but those are slip jigs, right? So slip jigs are just kind of the fancy Irish term for a tune in 9/8, right?
Yeah,
3 of 3.
Let's break down the rhythmic thing here. So most of them are in 6/8, and then you have the 9/8, and there was one in 3/4 as well.
Yeah. So, you have in Irish music, you have all of these different kind of names, or, maybe you can call them genres. But, similar to, the names that we designate to different, like, tempos in classical music, like, Allegretto, Andante, and stuff. But, we have jigs in 6/8, or double jigs, which is just a slightly faster jig, or a slip jig, which is same as a jig, but it's in 9/8, right? And then your tunes that are in 3/4 are typically going to be like a hornpipe, or a waltz or something like that. And then you have the classic reel, which is just 4/4. But reels are typically a little bit faster. So, yeah, I have a lot of jigs, and I know there's 1 or 2 hornpipes in there. Not a ton of reels, but yeah. So that's kind of how it breaks down. It's slang or terminology in its own kind of musical world there. So, yeah. And when I was making the scores, I didn't want to. I was going for kind of a healthy balance between. I didn't want the scores to read like a super detailed Rodrigo score or something. Having fingerings everywhere and a ridiculous amount of expression and dynamics and things like that. But I didn't want them to be like too bare bones. So I tried to go for a healthy in between. Yeah, to me, that's kind of part of the experience of playing Irish music is you get the melody down first, right? And then you
Absolutely.
make it.
I remember you playing some of those melodies on guitar. So it was really interesting to hear that album because I was like, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember you playing that a couple of years ago. And
I've heard them on Penny Whistle as well.
Wow, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's
A lot of
also
instrument crossover, sure.
Some of I think at least one of the pieces you had arranged for duo as well, guitar and Penny Whistle beforehand, or you can play it that way.
Yeah, that was a oh man, I'm blanking on the name of it. Not Bheag Si Mhor. Maybe it was another version of Blind Mary, but yeah, I've done a few of those of guitar and Penny Whistle together, which is a really nice combination, There's tons of guitar and flute and guitar and recorder, right? But guitar and Penny Whistle is a nice combo. You guys got to try it out sometime.
You'll have to send us some penny whistles.
I got you, man. I've got plenty of them. I'll send you a care package of Irish folkloric instruments.
Actually, I tried one of your I tried a few of them at your house, and they're not easy. Especially some of the bigger ones. Like you think guitar stretches are weird and awkward, but the way you have to block these holes on the penny whistle is super awkward and uncomfortable. I was very surprised.
Yeah. I have a couple memories of you at the kitchen table messing around with the big old low whistles.
I gave up my penny whistle career very, very quickly
before it even began.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely the low whistles, right, which are just larger penny whistles, in a lower register. Are definitely kind of counterintuitive, using the padded kind of down here on the joints of the fingers rather than the tips of the fingers. So you're doing this kind of thing to cover the holes, and it's not the most comfortable at first when you're getting used to it. Yeah, fun stuff.
Yeah, but there's no penny whistle on this album. This album is all solo, and you're playing all the melodies by yourself, and all of the accompaniment is all figured out in advance, so where you could do it all at the same time. So it's all, a pretty impressive track list with, easily at least like 10 songs all arranged and recorded by this one Irish man. Oh my goodness. Okay, I got a question for you. Where'd you get the name Songs from the Willow Glen?
Yeah, so Songs from the Willow Glen, kind of to be honest, there's no real super beautiful inspirational story behind where the name came from. It was one of those things where, we've all recorded music before, and it's like, well, I have to call it something, right? And I took inspiration from, in Irish music a lot. It's kind of within the tradition to songs from somewhere, like from a county, from County Down or County Roscommon, or songs from Downpatrick or the County Clare or something like that. So that is not like an unheard of thing to do with recording Irish music. And, but songs from Phoenix, Arizona did not quite have the Celtic mysticism to it that I really wanted the album to have. So, the Willow Glen is a fictional, nice made up place in my brain.
Oh, nice.
And
that's cool though. I like that better than, collection of Irish songs #1.
Yeah. Volume 1.
Yeah, it's got some soul in it. It does make people think that like all these songs are from like an Irish place.
Right.
So
right.
no, that's super cool
full.
to hear that was your idea. Okay, right. Here's my second question. Oh wait, no, Tony's got a question.
I was gonna say,
rock,
so
paper, scissors.
the album cover that we're looking at on the screen somewhere right now, that's the Irish Cultural Center in Phoenix.
Yeah. So thankfully, the operations manager at the Irish Cultural Center, her name is Ciara Archer, a great longtime friend of mine. We've played many last-minute gigs together at the Irish Cultural Center. But yeah, she's a fantastic photographer. She also did like kind of the art style, graphic design stuff for me. And I can't thank her enough for that. But yeah, the picture itself is standing in front of the castle at the Irish Cultural Center there. Big O stone castle. And that castle is actually modeled after a medieval castle in Ireland. I forget the name of the actual castle, but it's, scaled down, obviously. But yeah, it's right there. I figured this was as good of a place as any.
It's really cool that there's a place like that so close to you that you can take an album cover photo at. I mean, it's just perfect.
Yeah, Phoenix is one of those places where you wouldn't think that there are a lot of Irish Celtic related things happening, but there are. There's a lot of Irish and Scottish and all kinds of stuff like that going on here in Phoenix, Arizona. I mean, we have the Irish Cultural Center, but the Irish Cultural Center has been there since the 90s, so there's a solid population of people from that part of the world that live in Phoenix. There's also like, the Intel plant in Chandler that is like 90% Irish people and stuff like that, so in a way I find it, I'm really lucky to be able to, live here and kind of grow up here, being so into Irish music and having such a great kind of community and things like that to dive into. So in this desert,
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that you've like lived there for so long and like you're so devoted to that specific area, I mean, anybody who's anybody in Phoenix for music knows Ryan and knows, of his Irish music chops and, this guy gigs left and right. St. Patrick's Day comes along, you don't even see him. He's just a blur of instruments as he runs from place to place.
Just a green mist floating.
Are we
around.
allowed to reveal too that your birthday is literally St. Patrick's Day?
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
That's out of the bag now. It is pretty fitting, I guess, to have the birthday on St. Patrick's Day. And it's always fun because I'm always playing gigs on my birthday. And the St. Patrick's Day is a long day. And but yeah, it's nice to have the pub at the end of the night drunkenly sing you happy birthday on St. Patrick's Day. That's happened to me many times, and
perfect.
Yeah, it makes me
like
happy,
a reward.
Yeah. It's like you did it.
Yeah, that's so funny. I'd have mixed emotions about always having to be gigging so heavily during my birthday, but I could see how that would be fun too.
Yeah,
That's
definitely. It's fun. I mean, like this year, it fell in I think my birthday fell on a Thursday. Yeah, it was a Thursday, and I took Friday off from teaching and my any obligations. That was a
I'm gonna need a recovery date.
Yeah, so that's the March Madness, right?
Oh man, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready for the next question? I got another question for you. Okay, last 3 songs.
I was gonna say, do you want to play one of the songs before we get too far along as well?
That's a good idea. Can we play Blind Mary?
Sure, yeah.
Awesome. So here's my question for you. Can you tell us about Turlough O'Carolan?
Yeah. So Turlough O'Carolan is a very important figure in the lore of Irish music. He was the blind harper, right? The original blind harper. He lived in the 18th century, and he's been called like, the Irish Mozart or whatever. But yeah, he was kind of the end of a very long tradition of Irish harpists, and basically, he was blind from birth, and he made a living basically traveling from various kingdoms or chieftaindoms, and being the patron, basically being the musician, the bard, for various people. And Blind Mary actually comes from that, one of those experiences where the one of the families that he was living with for a while, they had a blind daughter named Mary, and Turlough O'Carolan, also being a blind man, they connected on that, and he wrote that very, very nice tune for her. And there's a lot of variety with O'Carolan's music. He actually has written some concertos and some things like that. He's on that weird blurred line between folk music and sort of classical music. But it's one of those things where someone who is, highly invested in Mozart and things like that will say that Turlough O'Carolan is primarily a folk composer, folk music guy, and I've heard Irish music people say that, like, oh, O'Carolan is the classical Irish music guy, so he's one of those weird cases. But yeah, Turlough O'Carolan is a very big, important figure. Pretty sure there's a statue to him in, I should know what city, but the name escapes me. Yeah, so there's 3 O'Carolan tunes on the album, that being one of them. The other 2 are a bit faster, a little bit more lively. But yeah, I love O'Carolan. His music is great, and it works really well on the guitar.
Very nice. Yeah, so you did, I'm going to pronounce it wrong, but the Bheag Si Mhor, which is the...
That's good, yeah.
That's one of the, the most popular ones, at least I think it is. I hear it a lot.
Yeah. That's definitely one of his more popular tunes.
Yeah. Does is there like that was such a nice story with the Blind Mary, that he actually, like, that was a person that he actually knew that he wrote a song for. Did he have a Miss Anne MacDermott Rowe in his life?
Yep. Yes. So there's actually quite a few O'Carolan tunes that are just named after people, just and we see that from other composers too. I mean, think of John Dowland with the Sir Earl of Essex, his Galliard of, so and so, dedicating the names of your songs for who's employing you, right? Who's giving you those sweet wages. So yeah, we see that there. Blind Mary is one of the more touching examples, I thought.
Yeah, they're gonna dig up an old history book or something, and then they're gonna see that Blind Mary was actually his boss, who treated him brutally or something, while he was working.
Some roundabout undercover boss, TLC Ancient Ireland edition.
What about the Bheag Si Mhor one?
Yeah, Bheag Si Mhor is arguably the most famous tune that O'Carolan has written, and it translates roughly to big hill, little hill, or large mound, little mound. And I think that that's a reference to the fairy mounds, which are kind of other cultures do this too, but these kind of mounds of grass that kind of, I think, sometimes pop up because of burial rituals, like it's kind of a tomb, and the grass just kind of grows over it. I'm sure that there's a lot more that goes into that, but yeah. So Bheag Si Mhor is great, and it's the closer on the album, and I close concerts with it a lot too. Like on St. Patrick's Day, in the morning, I played at the Mayo Clinic, and I just played the album from start to finish, and yeah, it's a nice one. It's like one of those tunes where if you play it just a little bit faster, it sounds like a nice lively jig, but if you play it like nice and slow, it sounds more like an air, which is on the album it's mostly slow. Yeah, it works out great. D major, right? I didn't even have to change the key. And yeah, just drop the low D down and you're good to go. It's a great tune.
Yeah, for people who are interested in the sheet music too, Ryan has that available. And yeah, like you said, it's drop D. I've definitely seen a lot of Irish music, and specifically this piece arranged in dad-gad tuning.
Yes.
That's probably the most common use of dad-gad tuning is to play this piece. But I know a lot of people probably don't want to have to tune their guitar to dad-gad just for one piece or something. So anybody who wants to learn this piece in just drop D, this is the version to get.
Yeah, I really like that about the album, that it's like, reading through it, like there's no crazy tunings or anything. You could pick up a guitar off the wall at Guitar Center and start playing like your arrangements.
Yeah, thank you. I that was kind of one of the main points of the project was I wanted it to be a solo guitar album, and I wanted it to be basically like Irish music or Celtic music through the classical guitar, not necessarily like with the lens of everything being a classical guitar like arrangement, but just playing Irish music on the classical guitar. Because the guitar in most the Irish music traditions is used as as the backing instrument, and like Tony mentioned, the dad-gad tuning. That's super common in Irish guitar players use that tuning all the time. And it's interesting because I think that also makes it closer to the Irish bouzouki tuning as well, just having the big open fifths everywhere. I wanted it to be accessible to people who weren't exactly well versed in Celtic music, but also at the same time people who are already in that world of Celtic music could take the scores and make them work. I don't think that you necessarily have to be a super astonishingly good classical guitarist to play the tunes. Well, some of them are kind of hard, but yeah, I wanted it to be that kind of just healthy mix of both worlds of the approaching it from the classical guitar standpoint and also approaching it from the opposite side, from the folk standpoint. Dad-gad tuning is really fun. You can do a lot of fun stuff with it, but for practicality, it's a pain. It's a pain to tune your B string down to A.
Exactly.
No one wants to do that.
I didn't want to come out as anti-dad-gad either, but
no, they're coming after us.
I play all kinds of open tunings, but
yeah, that's right, you do.
I think when you're in dad-gad tuning, there's limited amount of rep available. So it takes longer to get there, and then you don't really have that many pieces to play. A lot of them do sound the same.
So
I think drop D.
A lot of them
really
are very, very D centered.
Of course, yeah. There's a few really easy to get to.
Yeah,
sounds from that can turn into an hour-long jam session on
on
a couple frets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just being able to play it on the guitar, and also I kind of intentionally left some information out with the arrangements, and just trying to I think with Irish music, like it should be up to you as the player to interpret the tune. Like it should be up to you to listen to the tunes. Like let's listen to how Planksty plays Bheag Si Mhor, and then compare it to how, I don't know, some other Irish group plays Bheag Si Mhor, and then you make your own out of it. I didn't want every single articulation and every single accelerando and every dynamic change and things like that to be I just didn't want it to read like that. I want it to be more of like utility, right? Like more of a utilitarian sort of thing. So
Yeah.
So can I ask like what was your source then? So you started off with a notated melody and then listened to some of your favorite musicians and tried to come up with a version. How did you go about the process?
Yeah, so a lot of times that would be how it began. Picking out like where the melody fits the best under the fingers, and then notating the bare melody by itself, and then dealing with the accompaniment, listening to it and things like that. But there are some instances, like in Blind Mary, where I actually like changed a bit of the harmony. That's a popular harp tune, but just finding where it sits, if it sits better in A minor or E minor, if those all have their ins and outs on the neck, as we know, so just making it work. I found that G major is great for for jigs, especially. You've got open strings doing, especially like the ornamentation as well on the open strings, things like that. And everything is nice and close together, right? In first position there, you get, a couple octaves without actually having to shift. So that's nice. I found, G major works surprisingly well.
So how are you going about picking the accompaniment and the bass notes?
I guess it's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, sometimes it's just like, that's what it has to be, right? Like this tune is so, I'm not trying to reharmonize anything necessarily, except for maybe in like a handful of spots. But yeah, I wanted the main thing, especially for the faster tunes, is to maintain that integrity of the rhythm. The driving rhythm in this kind of music is really important. So I would rather sacrifice some accompaniment things if it means that I can keep that driving, something like that. So that was kind of my take on it. I there are points where I could definitely have done more, adding more like harmony and more notes to some of the chords, but I wanted it to be just satisfying, with as I want to say as little as possible, but not really, So yeah, so that was kind of my thought process. Some tunes were harder than other. Kid on the Mountain was one of the hardest ones for sure. Kid on the Mountain and the other slip jig, the Phis Fliuch. Or that tune is also called O'Farrell's Welcome to Limerick, because the the English translation of the Irish name is not exactly appropriate. But yeah. So that was basically my thought process there.
Yeah, and I mean, we're talking about songs that you've been playing on and off on a number of different instruments for years and years and years. So I imagine like a lot of your arranging of this project is like, you start with that melody notated down, and then, with, like you said, a focus on that rhythmic integrity, trying to figure out like where we can add some of these harmonies. I see a lot of the harmonies like fall on the strong beats, to aid in that rhythm and let that melody come through. I know sometimes with arrangements, we don't always start. Sometimes you start like as thick textured as possible, and then you go. But these arrangements don't strike me as that. It strikes me as you've got your melody first, and then you're adding to it.
Definitely, yeah, you're absolutely right. That the melody is the most important thing, I think, in dealing with this kind of music and making it work on the classical guitar. And again, like I said, I wasn't going about this with the lens of like typical thought process of arranging things on the guitar. You know, it's more like stitching it together, right? You know, it's you have one component and then you add another component, and maybe if you're lucky it works out, you know.
Yeah, and man, can we play another one of his songs? Can we play the first one, the White Petticoat?
Yeah, go ahead. That's the White Petticoat and the Kerry Jig. This one I actually learned from a band called Patrick Street, which was a band that sort of formed out of a few of the members from Planksty. So Andy Irvine and Donal Lunny, the guys that basically popularized the Irish bouzouki, they do a great version of these two tunes together, and the tunes just work so well. It's kind of a you know, E minor. People call the White Petticoat like the Halloween tune, you know, and then it goes right into the Kerry Jig, which is, you know, a typical G major, nice and uplifting tune. And I thought they worked really well together, so that's why I kept them together.
This is super beautiful. All this, I really like the, I don't know. I'm a sucker for the White Petticoat one, but actually I do also like that part where the chords are going out G, A minor, B minor, and then they finally hit that C in the Kerry Jig, and that's like,
yeah,
that's pretty
thanks.
nice.
Definitely.
And,
you'll hear that in the Patrick Street recording. See, I'm giving away the secrets here. But
awesome.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, it's funny, like I was saying before, that like some of this stuff is like very accessible. Maybe I was illusioned by practicing without the recording playing in the background, because, you know, if you take this any tempo you want, it's certainly not that hard, but you know, keeping it that consistent and that fast all the time, that is not an easy feat. You know, that Kerry Jig automatically becomes much harder than you try to match Ryan's tempo here.
Yeah. Like going back to just not dressing up the melody too much. That's more important than having super sweet 13th chords all over the place. So yeah, that's great.
Awesome.
Thanks for playing it and for listening. I'm glad that we got to listen to my recordings and all kind of pensively stare out our windows together. And
I was staring not at my phone or out the window, but at the sheet music. Actually, I was watching. I'm following along here.
Yeah, overall, for it being my first foray into home recording, I was really happy with how it turned out. And this was one of the microphones that I used. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun, a lot of learning, but came out on the other side more knowledgeable.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with the sound quality on the album. I think it turned out really nice.
Yeah, thank you. I tried to not go too overboard with the reverb. It's always hard to gauge these kinds of things. It's kind of stabbing in the dark at stuff. It's and listening to other recordings, and it's like, well, how much reverb does Scott Tennant have on his album? Or how trying to just like gauge certain things like that.
Absolutely. You shouldn't have told everybody it was home recorded. You should have. Nobody would have known because the sound quality is so good. You should have told everybody. I had my album recorded by the top recording artists in New York City.
In the Willow Glen in Ireland by fairies and leprechauns.
All right, I've got another question for you. I want to know, is somebody that would want to do this kind of music, somebody that would want to play Irish music and get really into it, what are some people that they should be listening to?
Yeah, I mean, just Irish music in general. Like, if you're trying to just get into Irish music.
What if somebody wants to do what you do?
Oh, I see. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so definitely the whole crew tribe of people associated with Planxty. So Andy Irvine and Donal Lunny are the two guys that they didn't bring the bouzouki to Ireland. That was Johnny Monahan, who played in Daydanon and a couple other bands. But Andy Irvine and Donal Lunny, for sure, the way that they play the bouzouki is actually kind of similar to what we can do on the guitar with the open tuning. A lot of your chords are just one finger, so it's pretty easy to have your melody and some chord together. And G D A D, right? So you always kind of get that residual kind of droning D and A kind of harmonic overtone sort of sound is constantly there, and it's but yeah, listen to Planxty, listen to The Well Below the Valley is probably my favorite album from them, but literally anything from them is great, and just paying attention to like what they do with the melody, where they put it, and they're particularly good at taking the melody and then having a counter melody on top of it, right? When you think of Irish music, you don't think like, oh yes, counterpoint, right? But they're doing it, and it's absolutely mind-blowing if you really try to focus on it and like analyze what's happening. It's absolutely awesome. And Planxty is the same band that the frontman Andy Irvine actually spent a few years like hitchhiking around the Mediterranean kind of region of the world, and he got super interested in like Greek folk music and things like that. So there's a couple of hidden gems of like Greek and Mediterranean folk tunes in their album. So yeah, Planxty is absolutely great. And that's where I would start. Definitely the Dubliners too. The Dubliners more so for like, it's listening to them is like listening to a history lesson. There are so many like places and names of people and names of areas of Ireland that come up, and it's like, oh yeah, I've heard that in a Dubliner song, but I don't actually know. That's all I know about it, is that it's referenced, like, oh, he flew in from Dunleary, and it's, yeah. So, and just trying to be like familiar with like how things go, like typical tunes that go together. A lot of times, you know, sets of tunes. You take one tune and you pair it with another tune and pair it with another tune, and think about how they're doing like with the like with the tonic and how that's shifting for each tune. You know, or just like the major keyed tune followed by a minor keyed tune in the middle, ending with another major keyed tune or something like that. Trying to think of other. I mean, there's so many. And all of these guys, they all have like every single member has their own band. You know, it's one of those cases. Bothy Band is really good. There's also so Paul Brady is another guy that he was actually not in Planksty, but the famous Purple album, it came out in the 70s. I forget the year, but of Andy Irvine and Paul Brady together is some of the best Irish music that I think that you can get, especially very like melodically intensive Irish music, you know, because a lot of people think, oh, Irish music, like I've been a wild rover for many a year, you know, but and that's a huge part of Irish music, but as far as like the intense melodic, very musically stimulating kind of stuff, yeah, definitely the whole Planksty, Donal Lunny, Andy Irvine, Paul Brady, all those guys. You gotta just listen to every album.
And if they're youngsters, they have to mix in a little Flogging Molly.
Yeah,
like you
exactly.
Did when you were
it just that's how it comes, you know. Like you get it. You get Flogging Molly. I still love Flogging Molly. You know, they're great. You know, I still love them. They're fantastic. But you know, it's like, what if we could distill this music down to, you know, to the source, you know, and you go deeper and deeper, and but yeah, Flogging Molly and Dropkick Murphys. I will never badmouth them. I love them. I think they're fantastic. Yeah, I think that it's totally it's doable. You can do more Irish music things on the guitar than I think that like we're generally like led to believe. So
yeah, and like just like that first band, I can't remember the name of the first band you said it starts with a P.
Planksty.
The Planksty. That you were really interested in how they have like a lot of counterpoint in their music, and you know I thought it was interesting because like even a lot of your songs, like the Kerry Jig, also have a lot of counterpoint in them. You can see a lot of, and there's not like the whole time like you would see in like a old timey fugue or something, but it's you know little fragments. But they're definitely moving in a voice like way. It's really interesting to check that out in songs like the Kerry Jig.
Yeah, definitely. Another good example is on the Jolly Soldier. That's another good example of the counterpoint, kind of having the main melody go up and the other melody kind of go down. And again, listen to Paul Brady and Andy Irvine do the Jolly Soldier, and you'll hear what I'm talking about even more so. You know, so it's I'm drawing from a lot of different inspirations, and there's a lot of classical guitarists that have done Irish arrangements. I mean, like David Russell has his album of Celtic guitar arrangements, and those are great, you know. But I wanted to do some of the tunes that maybe were a little bit more obscure, and kind of bring to light a lot of the tunes that are popular within the kind of mandolin and bouzouki bubble of Irish music repertoire. So that's that's kind of what Songs from the Willow Glen became. I didn't really set out with that in mind, but that's what happened.
Well, so I was going to tell you, I can't bring myself to play the Jolly Soldier on the guitar, only because I always play it on the mandolin.
I remember
from when you showed me how to play it on the mandolin. I always play it on I can't bring myself to play it on the guitar. It's not the same.
It is. It's true. You know, it's some of those tunes. You like I think that the mandolin, bouzouki, violin, like the tuning in fifths, like they're onto something. Like some of those tunes fit under the fingers much easier, much better than you know our weird fourths with a weird third in the middle. It's
whoa, Tony, cut this guy's mic. He's bad mouthing the guitars. Cut his mic.
He's speaking the truth. I love Open Fitz tunings.
Yeah, it's that it might be the way. It might be the golden path.
Well, we're reaching the end of towards the end of our interview here. Tony, do you got any other questions? I got one or two more, but Tony, what do you got?
No, I was just gonna say, if you have anything else you want to specifically cover, you can bring it up.
You got any hobbies?
I mean, I like the
none you can share.
I'm working on Lakeview Manor in Skyrim, building the house. I got.
Oh my goodness!
I got a pet dog and a wife and kids and stuff. It's fun.
in the game.
Right.
I don't want to throw it in the hobby section, but there's a couple bands that you're in as well.
Yeah. So I play guitar and sing for Deadspawn. That is, we're kind of a mix of old school black metal, death metal sort of thing, and I've been with them for a long time. And then my other band is a folk metal band called Adavant, and Adavant has been an active band in the Valley for over a decade, and they're all longtime friends of mine. But here for their latest album that they're working on, they brought me on full time to play all of the folk instruments. So all of the flutes and the mandolins and the bouzouki on the new album is all written and recorded by me, so it's been a lot of fun. We've done a few live shows together now too, and it's really fun to play the context of a metal concert, fast and rowdy, but to have a flute in my hands, and people are dancing and stuff. It's a lot of fun. So I've enjoyed that a lot. I had an Irish music duo there for a while. With Carl Steffens, another good friend of mine, and we also played a lot of the repertoire of Planksty and Paul Brady and a lot of that stuff. So all of these different incarnations of these tunes, they come up in different ways. Like we said earlier, some of these tunes I've been playing since I was in 8th grade. Kid on the Mountain is actually used as the main melody in a song by Elveti called Tegernako. And that's actually the song that YouTube video where they pulled me up on stage. It's Kid on the Mountain is the melody. If you can hear it, if you listen. But so that melody has had a very near and dear place to my heart for a long time. So finally putting pen to paper and recording it and making my own homegrown version of it was really nice. I enjoyed it a lot.
Wait, did you talk about the metal band that you're into? Where you play guitar and paint your face and shred like crazy?
He downplayed the black metal side of this for the interview.
Oh my god.
That's okay.
No, Deadspawn is more traditional black metal. There's no flutes or banjos in Deadspawn yet, but there will be. And then Adavant, we do the whole the costumes and the face paint and the war paint, I should say.
Yeah, did you know how I have one CD in my car? You remember when we were roomies, how I had that one CD in my car and I just had that
it was like a bunch of songs by the Eagles and stuff.
Something like that. It wasn't my CD.
It was a great CD. I'm not saying it was bad.
Nostalgic. But anyways, I had that CD in my car and I just I'd have that CD on in the background for years and years and years since
the
I moved
Deadspawn album.
No, the other one. But since I moved here,
okay.
Since I moved here,
gotcha.
I have not listened to that album once in 2 or 3 years, and I've listened to your Deadspawn album probably every day. So if it was YouTube views, I'd have probably 10,000 views and watch time and everything. But
that would be 35 cents on Spotify. You know?
That'd be good stuff.
Thanks,
stuff.
man. I'm glad that you are enjoying it. That was a lot of fun to record that album.
When's the solo arrangement album and sheet music for that?
Yeah.
For the
Oh man, it's coming. You know, the there's something about just like shifting power chords without a lot of distortion. It loses a little bit of power, maybe.
Yeah, I really have not heard like maybe any successful metal classical guitar arrangement, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, we say that now, and then you know, someone will be like, "Oh, well, you know."
And you could hear though. There's in that
put
album.
It below. If you know one, I want to hear it.
Yeah,
exactly.
But in that album, there are parts where you could tell the guitar part is like much more technical, and I'm like, okay, there's Ryan. Like in the fifth track, when there's that one instrumental part that I know you're like really proud of.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot more technical, and then that reminds me a lot more of like some classical guitar kind of stuff. In a way.
You know, you can break it down. You can see things are happening beneath the surface. There's arpeggios
of some kind.
You know, there's you got arpeggios, awesome. You got pinch harmonics, we got it all. Awesome. Yeah, well, thanks for coming by, man. I mean, this is awesome. We couldn't have a better first interview guest than like the master Irish guitar arranger himself, you know. Thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun. I enjoyed talking about The Last of Us last time. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And
there's
thanks.
Man, I keep coming up with video game episode ideas. I'm like, oh, Ryan would be a good guest for that one. Oh, we should have Ryan on for that one. Oh, Ryan.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we gotta have a guitar battle. We have to have a bouzouki off. You know, bouzouki arranging off.
Oh yeah. You need to get yourself one.
I just need a bouzouki. I was just gonna, you know, stretch that mandolin out over there, you know, just put it on one of those old tables and, you know, boom.
Exactly. And there you go.
All right. So tell the folks who are just listening where to find your album and sheet music and all that. And then we'll also post links in show notes, YouTube, wherever you'll find it. Look in the description.
Yeah. Thank you. It's so if you go on bandcamp.ryanroubison, RyanRoubison.com, that'll pull my page up, and there you can purchase the album, which comes the audio files, and that also comes with the PDF of the liner notes, and all of the sheet music, and a nice little message from yours truly. So,
and it's so worth it. Like the music is so good for playing, for gigs of any kind, for teaching. Music, I played through it. It's like we gotta talk. It's so good. We gotta talk about this more.
Thanks, Thomas.
It's also available on YouTube for listening if you want to get your sample there as well. That's before true. You go buy it. But go buy it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Here comes the lines. You ready, Tony? Thanks for sticking around to the end. If you like what you saw, please leave us a like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what is your favorite song from Songs from the Willow Glen.
All right. Well, big thank you to our dear friend, dear friend Ryan Roubison. Be sure to subscribe to his YouTube channel, buy the album, all that stuff. Links below, and don't forget to check out the Guitar Arrangers Collective on Facebook. Whatever, I can edit all this to make myself sound smart.
Don't be a what, Tony? Don't be a what?
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me on.
Don't be afraid to check out the Guitar Arrangers.
Don't be afraid.
Have no fear, for fear is your opponent's strongest ally.